Alex Torres pressed his face to the cold glass window of the space station, watching the alien ship drift past Earth like a shark in dark water. The massive vessel moved with the casual arrogance of something that had never been challenged, its hull gleaming with weapons that could turn a moon into dust. Inside that ship, creatures from another world were studying his home planet, making notes, deciding if humanity was worth their attention. They had no idea what they were really looking at. 300 years ago, humanity had made a choice that saved their species. After wars that nearly destroyed Earth and left billions dead, the survivors gathered in secret bunkers and made a pact. They would never again let the galaxy see their true strength. They would hide, learn, and wait until the time was right to reveal themselves. The plan was simple but required incredible discipline. Every city on Earth was hidden beneath artificial forests and fake cloud systems. The real technology, the weapons and factories that could challenge any alien empire, were buried deep underground or scattered across empty-looking asteroids. To anyone watching from space, humanity looked like a species that had barely figured out how to leave their own planet. Maya Patel sat in her underground laboratory beneath what used to be the Sahara Desert, reading reports from across the galaxy. As head of the concealment protocol, she knew more about alien civilizations than most aliens knew about each other. Humanity had been watching, listening, and learning for decades while pretending to be primitive. The galaxy was a dangerous place. The Galactic Confederation controlled most of the known star systems, and they had a simple rule: strong species joined them or disappeared. Maya had watched 17 civilizations vanish in the past 50 years. Some fought back and were destroyed. Others tried to negotiate and were absorbed. None had found a third option. Until now. Rick Davis, Maya's assistant, walked into the room carrying another stack of intelligence reports. His face was grim as he set them on her desk. Each report told the same story of conquest and control that had been repeating across the galaxy for centuries. "The KEF system went dark last week," Rick said quietly. 3 billion people gone. The Confederation moved in with mining ships 2 days later. Maya nodded without looking up from her work. The KEF had been brilliant biotechnologists, capable of growing living ships and healing any disease. They had also been proud and refused to hide their abilities. The Confederation had labeled them a potential threat and dealt with them accordingly. "What about the survey ship?" Maya asked. "Still circling the outer system. They've been out there for 6 days now, taking readings and sending reports back to their fleet. Our sensor operators think they're just doing routine reconnaissance, but I'm not so sure." Maya finally looked up from her reports. Through careful observation and infiltration, humanity had learned to read the signs. The Confederation didn't send survey ships just to look around. They sent them to evaluate targets. "Double-check our camouflage systems," she ordered. "Make sure every human ship in the system looks exactly as primitive as it should. If anyone asks, we're still struggling to reach our own moon with chemical rockets." The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity's primitive rockets were actually sophisticated fusion drives designed to look like crude chemical propulsion. Their struggling lunar colonies were actually massive military bases with enough firepower to level a continent. The entire solar system was an elaborate stage set, designed to fool the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, and it was working. Ambassador Rodriguez practiced her speech in the mirror, preparing for humanity's first official contact with the Confederation. She had been chosen specifically for her ability to appear impressed by simple technology and intimidated by displays of power. Her job was to make humanity look eager, but harmless, advanced enough to be useful, but not advanced enough to be threatening. It was perhaps the most important acting job in human history. "Remember," Maya's voice came through the communication device, "you're representing a species that thinks faster than light travel is magical and believes energy weapons are impossible. Be amazed by everything they show you. Ask naive questions. Make them think we're children playing with toys we don't understand." Rodriguez nodded to her reflection. She had studied every successful first contact in galactic history, and they all had one thing in common: the weaker species tried to impress the stronger one. Humanity would do the opposite. They would appear so weak and primitive that the Confederation would see them as barely worth conquering, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Admiral Wright monitored the situation from humanity's true command center. The facility was hidden 7 miles down in an artificial trench, connected to the surface by tunnels that looked like natural geological formations. From here, Wright could coordinate the defense of the entire solar system without any alien. Knowing the base existed, his screen showed the real state of human technology. Stealth ships that could hide from any sensor. Weapons that could crack planets. Artificial intelligence systems that could process information faster than any biological brain. Humanity had spent 3 centuries developing technology while the rest of the galaxy fought wars, and the result was a civilization that could challenge anyone in open conflict, but open conflict was exactly what they were trying to avoid. "The alien ship is moving toward Earth," reported Captain Sullivan from her position aboard the stealth vessel Phantom's Edge. Her ship was following the alien survey vessel, invisible to their sensors and ready to strike if necessary. "They're definitely planning direct contact," Wright nodded grimly. The moment they had been preparing for was finally arriving. Soon, humanity would have to look their potential conquerors in the eye and convince them that they were seeing helpless primitives. Instead of the most dangerous species in the galaxy, the masquerade was about to begin, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If they succeeded, humanity would buy themselves more time to prepare and learn. If they failed, 300 years of careful planning would end in extinction. Outside the hidden command center, Earth continued its performance as a backwards planet full of primitive creatures who had barely learned to fly. But beneath the surface, humanity held its breath and prepared for the most important deception in the history of the galaxy. The alien ship arrived on a Tuesday morning, dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a predator announcing its presence. The vessel was 3 times larger than anything humanity had ever built, at least according to the official records. Its hull was covered in weapons that glowed with barely contained energy, and its size alone was meant to intimidate any primitive species into immediate submission. Ambassador Rodriguez took a small shuttle up to meet them, her hands shaking. Just enough to seem nervous, but not enough to appear suspicious. She had practiced this moment thousands of times, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of facing beings who could destroy her entire species with a casual order. The alien leader introduced himself as High-Legged Krill, and everything about him screamed danger. His body was covered in natural armor that had been scarred by countless battles. His 4 eyes moved independently, taking in every detail of the shuttle's interior with calculating precision. When he spoke, his voice carried the confidence of someone who had conquered 17 star systems and had never met meaningful resistance. "Greetings, humans," Krill said through the translation device. "The Galactic Confederation extends its protection to emerging species. We have observed your recent attempts at spaceflight and are impressed by your progress." Rodriguez played her part perfectly, stammering through her prepared speech about humanity's achievements. She spoke about their amazing fusion rockets as if they were the pinnacle of technology, and described their lunar colonies as humanity's greatest accomplishment. Every word was carefully chosen to make humans sound like children who had just learned to walk. The performance was so convincing that one of Krill's assistants actually fell asleep during the presentation. "We are honored by your presence," Rodriguez continued, her voice full of manufactured awe. "Humanity has dreamed of joining the galactic community for generations. We have so much to learn from advanced species like yourselves." Krill's expression suggested he was thinking the same thing, but not in the way Rodriguez intended. He was already calculating how useful human slaves might be and how much resistance the conquest would require. The answer to both questions appeared to be not much. Miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Wright watched the meeting through hidden cameras while coordinating humanity's real response. The underwater facility was a marvel of engineering, but it would appear to be nothing more than a deep-sea mining operation to any casual observer. From here, Wright controlled defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets, but they were all disguised as space debris or natural phenomena. "The alien ship is conducting detailed scans of the system," reported Captain Beth Sullivan from her stealth vessel. "The Phantom's Edge was designed to be completely invisible to alien sensors, and it had been shadowing the Confederation ship since its arrival. They're mapping our defenses and looking for resources. This isn't just a diplomatic visit." Wright nodded grimly. Intelligence reports from human agents throughout the galaxy had painted a clear picture of how the Confederation operated. They would send a diplomatic mission to evaluate a species, then return with a larger force to either absorb them or eliminate them. There was never a third option. The meeting between Rodriguez and Krill lasted for 3 hours, with the alien leader asking increasingly detailed questions about human technology and military capabilities. Rodriguez answered everything with enthusiasm, describing humanity's powerful chemical rockets and advanced steel armor as if they were miracle technologies. "We have managed to establish small outposts on our moon and the neighboring planet," Rodriguez explained proudly. "Our best scientists believe we might be able to reach the next star system within a few hundred years, if we can develop better engines." Krill's translation of this statement was probably closer to, "These primitives are exactly as helpless as they appear." He asked a few more questions about human population and resource distribution, then dismissed Rodriguez with promises of future cooperation and mutual benefit. As soon as the human shuttle departed, Krill began composing his initial report to the Confederation Council. The document would determine humanity's fate, and every word was exactly what the Hidden Watchers had expected. Species 2847C demonstrates typical post-industrial development patterns, Krill wrote. Limited spacefaring capability, fractured political structures, negligible military threat. Estimated conquest time, 72 hours. Recommend standard integration protocols. Dr. Meh Patel read the intercepted report in her underground laboratory and felt a mixture of relief and dread. The deception was working perfectly, but success meant that humanity was now officially on the Confederation's target list. They had bought themselves time, but not much. "How long do we have?" asked Rick Davis, reading over her shoulder. "Based on their previous operations, they'll probably return within 6 months with a larger fleet," Maya replied. "They'll want to do a more thorough evaluation before making their final decision." The next few months passed in a blur of preparation. Humanity's hidden military forces went to maximum readiness while maintaining their cover as civilian operations. Weapon systems that had been disguised as research facilities were quietly brought online. Ships that appeared to be cargo haulers were loaded with enough firepower to level cities. The most dangerous part was maintaining the illusion while preparing for war. Every human in the solar system had to continue playing their assigned role while simultaneously preparing for the possibility that the performance might end in violence. Captain Foster, commanding the hidden military base on the far side of the moon, reported the strain her personnel were experiencing. "We're walking a tightrope," she warned during a secure communication with Admiral Wright. "Every day we pretend to be helpless miners, we risk someone making a mistake that exposes us. But every day we don't prepare for the inevitable attack, we risk extinction." The breakthrough came when the Confederation fleet returned, just as Maya had predicted. This time, they brought 14 ships instead of 1, along with specialized equipment for conducting detailed species evaluations. High Legate Krill had decided that humanity warranted a closer look. The second round of meetings was more intensive, with Confederation experts studying everything from human biology to social structures. They brought creatures called truth seekers, aliens who had evolved to detect deception through psychic abilities. For the first time since the masquerade began, humanity faced the real possibility of exposure. Ambassador Rodriguez found herself face-to-face with one of these creatures during a diplomatic dinner. The truth seeker was a floating mass of tentacles, and eyes that seemed to look directly into her soul. She could feel its mind probing hers, searching for the emotional inconsistencies that would reveal her deception. Rodriguez had been trained for this exact scenario. Instead of trying to hide her true thoughts, she flooded her mind with genuine emotions, awe at the Confederation's power, excitement about humanity's future among the stars, and carefully crafted fear about her species' vulnerability. The truth seeker withdrew, apparently satisfied that she was exactly what she appeared to be, but in that moment of mental contact, Rodriguez caught a glimpse of the alien's true thoughts. What she saw made her blood run cold. The Confederation wasn't just evaluating humanity for conquest. They were evaluating them for complete extinction. "They know," she reported to Admiral Wright after returning to Earth, "not about our real capabilities, but about our potential. They've identified us as a species that could become dangerous if given enough time to develop. They're not planning to conquer us. They're planning to eliminate us entirely." The galaxy was closing in, and humanity's greatest performance was about to face its ultimate test. The question was no longer whether they could maintain their disguise, but whether they would have to abandon it to survive. High-legged Krill stared at the data scrolling across his command screen, his 4 eyes moving in different directions as he processed the information. Something was wrong with the humans, though he couldn't quite identify what. Their technology was appropriately primitive, their military was laughably weak, and their leaders seemed properly awed by Confederation power. But 17 successful conquest campaigns had taught him to trust his instincts, and his instincts were screaming warnings. The problem wasn't what the humans showed him. It was what they didn't show. Every species the Confederation had encountered followed predictable patterns when faced with superior technology. They either tried to impress their visitors with their best achievements, or they cowered in obvious terror, or they made desperate attempts to hide their most valuable resources. The humans did none of these things. They seemed almost prepared. "Send a message to the Confederation Council," Krill ordered his communications officer. "Request authorization for a detailed species evaluation. I want xenorchaeologists, deep space scanners, and a full investigation team. Something about these creatures requires closer examination." Admiral Wright received the intelligence about Krill's request within hours, thanks to human agents who had infiltrated Confederation communication networks decades earlier. The news was exactly what he had been dreading. The careful performance that had protected humanity for so long was finally drawing the wrong kind of attention. "They're bringing in specialists," Wright reported to the Emergency Council meeting in the Deep Ocean facility. 14 ships this time, including a dedicated sensor platform and teams trained to detect deception. "We're moving from casual observation to active investigation." Dr. Maya Patel reviewed the intelligence reports with growing concern. The Confederation's investigation teams were thorough and experienced. They had exposed hidden civilizations before, species that thought they could conceal their true nature from galactic scrutiny. None of those species had survived the revelation. "How much time do we have?" asked Captain Foster from her position on the lunar base. 6 weeks, maybe 8, Maya replied. "They'll want to conduct a systematic evaluation of our entire solar system. Every anomaly will be investigated, every inconsistency examined. We've never faced this level of scrutiny before." The Confederation fleet arrived exactly 43 days later, spreading throughout the solar system like a net designed to catch hidden prey. Their scanner ships took positions at strategic points, creating a sensor web that could detect the smallest energy signature or artificial construct. Investigation teams landed on Earth, Mars, and the Moon, conducting surveys that were both thorough and terrifying. For the first time since the concealment protocol began, humanity was forced to actively manage their deception in real time. Maya's teams worked around the clock, generating false sensor readings and creating holographic overlays to hide their true installations. What appeared to be natural rock formations were actually blast doors protecting military facilities. What looked like mining operations were actually weapons factories. Every human in the system became an actor in the most important performance of their lives. The closest call came when Confederation deep space scanners detected the massive quantum signature of Earth's planetary defense grid. The network of hidden weapons platforms generated an energy pattern that was impossible to explain away as natural phenomena. For several terrifying hours, it looked like humanity's greatest secret was about to be exposed. Commander Torres saved a situation with quick thinking and desperate improvisation. He activated emergency protocols that made the quantum signature appear to be caused by unusual interactions between Earth's magnetic field and solar radiation. The explanation was technically plausible, though it required the investigators to believe in an extremely rare cosmic coincidence. They bought it, but barely. "We can't keep this up," Captain Sullivan reported from her stealth ship. The Phantom's Edge was tracking the Confederation sensor platform, ready to destroy it if necessary, but such an action would end the masquerade permanently. "Every day they stay here increases the risk of exposure. Sooner or later they're going to find something we can't explain away." The breaking point came when one of Krill's truth seekers focused its attention on a group of human technicians working on what appeared to be a simple communications satellite. The psychic creature was specifically looking for the kind of focused deception that indicated hidden military technology. What it found instead was a group of engineers who genuinely believed they were working on primitive equipment, the truth seekers. Report was exactly what humanity needed: human technical personnel display appropriate levels of pride and frustration consistent with their technological limitations. No evidence of deception or hidden capabilities detected. The creature had no way of knowing that the primitive communications satellite was actually a sophisticated quantum relay system, or that the human engineers had been psychologically conditioned to believe their own cover stories. Humanity had learned that the best way to fool a mind reader was to make sure the minds being read contained the right information, but the investigation was revealing things that worried the Confederation leadership. Dr. Maya Patel intercepted communications between Krill and his superiors that painted a disturbing picture of their true intentions. Genetic analysis confirms significant adaptive potential, read one report. Species demonstrates unusual resilience and rapid technological development. Recommend immediate processing to prevent future complications. Maya shared the intelligence with Admiral Wright during a secure meeting in the deepest levels of the underwater facility. The room was shielded against every known form of detection, but both humans spoke in whispers anyway. "They're not planning to conquer us," Maya said. Quietly, they're planning to exterminate us. Not because of what we are, but because of what we might become. Wright studied the intercepted communications with growing anger. The Confederation had identified humanity as a potential threat based solely on their biological and cultural characteristics. The fact that humans were currently helpless was irrelevant. What mattered was their potential to become dangerous if given enough time to develop. "How long do we have?" Wright asked. "Based on their previous operations, they'll make their final decision within the next 2 weeks. If they decide we're too dangerous to leave alive, they'll probably act immediately." The Admiral looked at the tactical displays showing Confederation forces spread throughout the solar system. 14 ships, each one capable of destroying a planet. Thousands of trained soldiers and advanced weapon systems. Investigation teams that were slowly but steadily uncovering inconsistencies in humanity's carefully constructed facade. For the first time in 3 centuries, humanity faced a choice they had hoped never to make. They could continue the masquerade and hope the Confederation decided they were harmless enough to be allowed to live as slaves. Or they could abandon the deception and reveal their true nature in a desperate gamble for survival. "Start sending coded messages to all hidden facilities," Wright ordered. "Activation Protocol 7. If they decide to eliminate us, we'll show them exactly what 300 years of preparation can accomplish." Maya nodded and began transmitting the orders that would awaken humanity's sleeping military might. Across the solar system, weapons that had been hidden for decades began their final preparations. The masquerade was reaching its end. One way or another, High Legate Krill completed his final report to the Confederation Council, unaware that human intelligence agents were reading every word as he wrote it. His conclusion was exactly what Maya and Wright had expected and exactly what they had been preparing for. Species 2847C demonstrates suitable docility and resource potential. However, genetic analysis suggests significant adaptive capability. Recommend immediate processing to prevent future complications. The order came back within hours. Authorization granted. Begin elimination procedures immediately. Humanities. 300-year performance was about to end, but the final act would be nothing like what their audience expected. The transformation began at exactly 8 o'clock in the morning, Earth time. Across the solar system, humanity dropped their mask with the precision of a military operation that had been planned for 3 centuries. Admiral Wright stood in his deep potion command center, watching tactical displays that showed the real state of human civilization for the first time in living memory. His finger hovered over the activation switch that would end the greatest deception in galactic history. "All stations report ready," announced Captain Sullivan from her position aboard the Phantom's Edge. Around her, 200 sister ships decloaked simultaneously, revealing the ghost fleet that had been shadowing Confederation forces for weeks. Luna. "Installations ready," reported Captain Foster. On the moon's surface, what had appeared to be simple mining colonies began revealing their true nature. Blast doors that had been disguised as natural rock formations slid open, exposing weapons batteries that could crack a planet. "Mars facilities coming online," added Commander Torres. The red planet's struggling settlements activated their hidden shipyards, releasing hundreds of advanced warships that had been constructed in secret over decades. Wright took a deep breath and made the decision that would define humanity's future. "Execute Operation Revelation. Show them what we really are." The change was immediate and shocking. Earth's carefully maintained illusion of a barely civilized world crumbled in minutes. Artificial forest canopies retracted to reveal cities that soared kilometers into the sky, their towers gleaming with technology that surpassed anything the Confederation had ever seen. Mountain ranges split open like flowers, releasing atmospheric defense platforms that rose into orbit with casual grace. The oceans themselves seemed to come alive as massive submarines surfaced for the first time in decades. Each vessel was larger than a Confederation destroyer and armed with weapons that could level continents. They had been waiting beneath the waves, part of a defense network that spanned the entire planet. High-Legate Krill watched the transformation from the bridge of his flagship, his 4 eyes wide with shock and growing fear. The primitive species he had come to exterminate was revealing itself to be more advanced than the Confederation itself. Every helpless human settlement was actually a military fortress. Every primitive ship was actually a marvel of engineering. That made his own vessels look crude by comparison. "Impossible," he whispered, but the evidence was overwhelming. He had been fooled completely, led by the nose by a species that had been pretending to be weak, while actually being stronger than anyone in the galaxy. Admiral Wright's voice cut across all communication frequencies, reaching every ship in the solar system with humanity's first honest statement in 300 years. "High-Legate Krill, this is Admiral Wright of the Human Defense Fleet. Your evaluation of our species was incomplete. We are not the primitive mammals you believed us to be. We are not the helpless prey you came to process. We are the species that chose to hide rather than conquer, to watch rather than destroy, to learn rather than dominate. You have forced our hand." The Battle of Solar System began 30 seconds later when Krill, too shocked and too proud to retreat, ordered his fleet to attack what he still believed must be an impossible bluff. He learned otherwise very quickly. The Confederation forces opened fire with their most powerful weapons. Energy beams that could melt asteroids and torpedo spreads that could shatter moons. Their attack was coordinated and overwhelming, designed to destroy any resistance before it could organize an effective response. The human ships didn't even try to dodge. They absorbed the Confederation's best shots with shields that flickered but never failed, then responded with weapons that redefined the concept of overwhelming force. Captain Sullivan's Ghost Fleet struck first, their ships materializing from empty space to deliver precision strikes that disabled rather than destroyed. Confederation vessels found their weapon systems offline and their engines dead, but their life support and communication systems remained intact. "What are they doing?" Krill demanded, watching his fleet being systematically disabled by an enemy. That could have destroyed them all in the first minutes of battle. Why aren't they finishing us? The answer came from Captain Foster's lunar batteries, which demonstrated their capability by vaporizing a small asteroid between the Earth and Moon. The display of power was impossible to miss. Humanity could have obliterated every Confederation ship instantly, but they were choosing not to. Commander Torres led the boarding parties that secured the disabled Confederation vessels, his teams moving through the alien ships with the calm efficiency of professionals who had trained for this exact scenario. They offered medical assistance to wounded aliens and provided food and water to prisoners, treating their enemies with the same courtesy that Ambassador Rodriguez had shown during their first meeting. The battle lasted 18 hours, but it could have ended in 18 minutes if humanity had chosen destruction over capture. Instead, they systematically disabled every Confederation vessel while keeping their crews alive and unharmed. Krill found himself a prisoner aboard his own flagship, watching human engineers repair his damaged systems with technology that was generations ahead of anything he had ever seen. The humans worked with casual competence, fixing problems that his own technicians couldn't even identify. Why? He asked Commander Torres, who was overseeing the repair work. You could have destroyed us all. Your weapons, your ships, everything you've shown us proves you could dominate the entire galaxy. Why hide? Why wait? Why show mercy to enemies who came to exterminate you? Torres set down his tools and considered the question seriously. He had been asking himself the same thing since the battle began. 300 years ago, our species nearly destroyed itself through warfare, he explained. We learned that power without wisdom is just another form of suicide. So we chose to watch and learn to understand what the galaxy was becoming before we decided what role we wanted to play in it. Krill struggled to understand the concept. In his experience, power was meant to be used, preferably to acquire more power. The idea of deliberately concealing strength was alien to him. You studied. US, he said slowly. All of us. Every species in the Confederation. We studied everyone, Torres confirmed. We watched your conquests, analyzed your tactics, learned from your mistakes and successes. We wanted to understand why the galaxy was the way it was before we chose our place in it. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been secretly observing galactic civilization for centuries, gathering intelligence and developing countermeasures while everyone else assumed they were primitives struggling to reach their own moon. What happens now? Krill asked. Torres smiled, and for the first time since his capture, the alien commander saw something other than professional competence in the human's expression. He saw hope. Now we find out if the galaxy is ready for something different, Torres replied. We've spent 3 centuries learning about conquest and domination. Maybe it's time to try cooperation instead. News of the Battle of Solar System spread throughout the galaxy within weeks, carried by the Confederation prisoners who had been released with detailed recordings of humanity's capabilities. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Some species viewed humanity as the ultimate threat, others as potential saviors from Confederation oppression. Most were simply trying to understand how they had been watched and studied for so long without knowing it. Dr. Maya Patel prepared humanity's first official address to the galaxy, a message that would reach every inhabited system within months. The words had been carefully chosen to reflect humanity's true intentions now that the masquerade was over. To all species of the galaxy, we are humanity. We have watched your civilizations rise and fall, your conquests and defeats, your triumphs and tragedies. We have learned from your mistakes and your successes. We offer not conquest, but cooperation. Not domination, but partnership. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us to thrive if we choose wisdom over warfare. The greatest deception in galactic history was over, but humanity's greatest challenge was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Solar System, Admiral Wright stood once again in the observation deck of Sanctuary Station, but the view had changed completely. Human ships moved openly through the solar system for the first time in 3 centuries. Their adaptive camouflage systems finally switched off. Diplomatic vessels from 23 different species waited in orderly lines for their chance to establish formal relations with humanity. The galaxy had learned that everything they thought they knew was wrong. The first major change came from the Confederation itself, or rather, what was left of it. High Legate Creel had returned to the galactic capital with his surviving fleet and a story that nobody wanted to believe. According to his report, a species that the Confederation had classified as primitive, barely spacefaring mammals had not only defeated the most powerful military force in the galaxy, but had done so while capturing their personnel alive and treating them with impossible kindness. The Confederation Council's first reaction was to accuse Krill of cowardice or deception. Their second reaction, after reviewing the detailed recordings that human prisoners had insisted on providing, was panic. If humanity could defeat a Confederation fleet so easily, what else were they capable of? More importantly, how many other primitive species might actually be hiding similar capabilities? Dr. Maya Patel monitored the galactic reaction from her underground facility, which was now openly acknowledged as Earth's primary intelligence center. The reports coming in from human agents throughout the galaxy painted a picture of a civilization in shock. 17 species have formally withdrawn from the Confederation in the past month, reported Rick Davis, reading from the latest intelligence summary. Another 43 are demanding renegotiation of their membership terms. The Galactic Council is in complete chaos, Maya nodded thoughtfully. Humanity's revelation had done more than just expose their own deception. It had made every species in the galaxy question what they thought they knew about their neighbors. If humans could hide their true nature so completely, who else might be doing the same? The answer, as it turned out, was more species than anyone had imagined. Within weeks of humanity's announcement, 3 other civilizations revealed that they too had been hiding their real capabilities. The Villani, who had appeared to be simple traders, actually controlled one of the most sophisticated intelligence networks in the galaxy. The Threnody, dismissed as primitive because they preferred living in harmony with nature, possessed biotechnology that could reshape entire worlds. The Korvac, who seemed to be nothing more than peaceful philosophers, had developed mental abilities that made them nearly impossible to conquer. Each revelation sent new shockwaves through galactic civilization. The established order, based on clear divisions between strong and weak species, was crumbling as the weak revealed themselves to be anything but helpless. Ambassador Rodriguez, who had played her role as humanity's naive representative so perfectly, now found herself genuinely overwhelmed by the complexity of real galactic diplomacy. Her first official meeting as humanity's actual representative was with a delegation from the Alterian Empire, one of the few civilizations that rivaled the Confederation in military power. "We must admit," the Alterian ambassador said through his translation device, "we are impressed by your species' patience. To maintain such a deception for 3 centuries requires remarkable discipline." Rodriguez smiled, remembering how nervous she had been during her first meeting with Krill. "We learned early that survival sometimes requires more intelligence than strength. We've been fortunate to have the time to develop both." The Alterian leader nodded respectfully. "Indeed. We have reviewed the technical specifications you provided of your defensive capabilities. We would be interested in discussing mutual defense agreements if your species is amenable to such arrangements." It was a far cry from the Confederation's approach of conquest or absorption. For the first time in galactic history, a major power was approaching humanity as equals rather than as targets. Captain Sullivan commanded one of the human ships now openly patrolling the solar system, her vessel no longer hidden behind stealth technology. The Phantom's Edge had become a symbol of humanity's new relationship with the galaxy, visible, powerful but not aggressive. 3 more diplomatic missions arrived today, she reported to Admiral Wright during their daily briefing. The hegemony wants to discuss trade agreements. The Federation is offering a formal alliance. The Syndicate is asking for help with their rebellion against Confederation rule. Wright studied the tactical displays showing the increasing traffic in and out of the solar system. Each new arrival represented both an opportunity and a potential threat. Humanity's secret was out, but that didn't mean the galaxy had suddenly become a safe place. "What's our status on the deep projects?" Wright asked. Sullivan's expression grew serious. "All facilities remain secure and hidden. The Council has decided to maintain classification on Projects Oracle, Prometheus, and especially Project Titan. Some secrets are still too dangerous to share." Wright nodded grimly. Humanity's revelation had been carefully managed to show impressive but not terrifying capabilities. They had demonstrated that they were a major power deserving of respect, but they had not revealed the true extent of their technological advancement. Some discoveries were too powerful to unleash on a galaxy that was still learning to deal with conventional warfare. The most significant change came from within human society itself. For 3 centuries, every human had lived with the knowledge that their species was hiding among the stars, pretending to be weak while secretly growing strong. The end of the masquerade brought a sense of relief that was almost physical. Captain Foster stood on the surface of the moon, looking up at Earth, without the need for camouflage or concealment for the first time in her life. The lunar